Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the Center for High Impact Philanthropy's first ever Towards Impact webinar. We're so pleased that you could join us today. This event is the first in a series designed to help you better understand the center, our work, and how all that we're learning helps donors do more good. I'm Ann Farola, and I'm the Director of Education and Strategic Partnerships for the Center for High Impact Philanthropy, or CHIP. I manage the center's teaching programs as well as our collaborations with those outside the university. My experience spans both sides of philanthropy, having worked with nonprofits in fields such as healthcare, arts and culture, and education, as well as serving on the boards of 2 grant-making organizations. As we get started, we'd also like to learn a bit about you. So while I introduce my colleagues, you should see a poll question on your screen where you can indicate your role in the philanthropic or impact sector. Please take a minute to submit your answers, which will help us make today's presentation as useful as possible. With me is Katharina Risqueta, Founding Executive Director of the Center and Adjunct Faculty in the School of Social Policy and Practice. Kat has had a long career working towards social impact in both the private and nonprofit sectors, including with McKinsey & Company, Wells Fargo's Corporate Community Development Group, and New Schools Venture Fund, and is board president of La Casa de las Madres, San Francisco's oldest and largest shelter for battered women and their children. Kat, in addition to your professional work in the field of philanthropy, I know that you're currently engaged in multiple community efforts. Can you tell us about them?
Sure. Like a lot of members of our team, I'm involved in work in the social sector outside of the center's efforts. So I currently serve on the board of GuideStar, which is the largest provider of nonprofit information in the world. Greenlight Philadelphia, which is a fund that first assesses the needs of the communities it works in and then scans the country to find the best programs to address those needs. And I currently serve on the steering committee for the Littman Family Prize for Global Social Impact, as well as a judge for AARP's Purpose Prize and MacArthur Foundation's 100 and Change Prize.
So you're busy.
I am.
We're also so pleased to have John L. Jackson Jr., the Dean of the University of Pennsylvania School of Social Policy and Practice, or SP2, with us today. John joined Penn in 2006 as the very first Penn Integrates Knowledge, or PIC professor, which is an appointment for preeminent faculty who work in multiple Penn schools and who harness tools from different disciplines and professional perspectives to address compelling societal challenges. John, as an alumna of SP2, I'm excited by your ambitious goals for our school. Can you tell us about your vision?
Thanks for the question, and I'm so excited to be here with you all today. I mean, our goal is simple. It's to make sure that our school, SP2, is one of the leading centers for interdisciplinary teaching and research on social innovation, impact, and justice anywhere in the world. And that means a number of things. It means making sure we're training students across the social sciences and humanities. It means piloting brand new programs that we're working on with other schools at Penn, like the Graduate School of Education, like nursing, to train students together and to give them an opportunity to work collaboratively in the field with one another. And it also means we're thinking about the contemporary political moment. So we have a brand new, massive, open online course that's free to anyone that launched on Inauguration Day, goes for 100 days, and asks people to use the evidence from our faculty to think about the issues that are most important to them. So we feel like there's a lot we're doing, a lot more we want to do, and CHIP is central to that mission.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for being with us here today. We know you're a busy man, so we appreciate your support. We have the results of our participant poll, and we're pretty evenly split across the different sectors, which is great. We have folks here that are funders themselves, those that represent institutional funders, those who are intermediaries helping others with their giving, and some others. So welcome to all of you, and we hope we can make this an interesting and engaging time for everyone. Our purpose here today is to give an overview of our center and to get you thinking about the ways that you can engage with us to increase the impact of philanthropy in your own community and to join CHIP in advancing the whole sector towards greater impact. Our agenda is simple, but we think impactful. So we'll discuss who CHIP is, what CHIP does, where CHIP is headed, how you can join and partner with us, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions and answers. We anticipate the presentation will last for about 20 or 30 minutes, after which we'll open it up to questions. And you can submit a question at any time during the presentation using the button on your screen. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kat and John.
Great. So first in our agenda is, who is CHIP? And I'll start by saying we are a nonprofit university-based center. We're here at the University of Pennsylvania. which is a university founded by Benjamin Franklin. And a quote that's often ascribed to him is, "The ability to serve mankind should indeed be the great aim and end of all learning." And in the spirit of Benjamin Franklin, the founder of our university, our team is focused on building and sharing knowledge for real-world action. Since ours is not a traditional academic work, many people ask, well, couldn't you have been set up as a separate nonprofit? And what we find is that our university home provides two important assets to our work. The first is that it allows us to access existing knowledge, vast research libraries, the expertise and networks of our faculty and research colleagues. It also allows us to tap the contributions of some of the brightest students in the world who are passionate about creating positive social change. And because we're at a university, we can access all of this relatively cost effectively. The other great strength of our university home is that it demands a level of rigor and independence that we hope and we feel has earned the trust of those who use our work and those who are currently partnering with us.
And I would just add that I'm not sure every university home is built the same way. And I will say CHIP's mission aligns perfectly with the ethos of the university and with the mission of our school in particular, the School of Social Policy and Practice. As engineers of knowledge and new ideas, universities, I think, have a unique role to play in advancing society today. And this university home has a vision, I think, that's based on, and this comes out of Amy Gutman's vision, 3 pillars. That's inclusion, innovation, and impact. Impact is one of those 3, and something Chip knows a lot about. It embodies all 3 of those principles. And as the only, and this I think is key, the only university-based center with a singular focus on philanthropy for social impact, CHIP has a big role to play nationally and internationally.
So who is CHIP? We're a university, nonprofit university-based center. The other thing you should know about our team is that from the beginning and by design, CHIP is a multidisciplinary team. We were founded initially by folks from 2 schools. One were alumni from the Wharton School of Business, the oldest collegiate business school in the world. And these were folks who were engaged in philanthropy, but were frustrated at the lack of information and analysis and ways to think about their giving so that it could lead to greater social impact. There was another party at the university who was also frustrated, and that included all of our colleagues at the School of Social Policy and Practice, the oldest school of social work in the country that has an over 100-year history of preparing individuals to serve at the very front lines of social change. And their frustration was, when you look at the issues that donors around the world care about, we actually know a lot. We know a lot about the nature of these problems. Sadly, they've existed for a very long time. When there's been success, we know what it took. And yet somehow that knowledge is not getting into the hands of people, like these Wharton alumni, who could use it to create greater change. So from the beginning, 2 schools that you often don't see working collaboratively, an eminent business school and a leading school of social work and social policy, came together to launch the center. But our multidisciplinary team goes far beyond just those 2 disciplines. Our founding team members included a pediatrician, an epidemiologist trained as a researcher, but who also served as the attending physician on an AIDS ward in Botswana, a lawyer trained as a mediator with many years of foundation and policy experience, a PhD from the RAND Corporation trained in mixed research methods with expertise in education and student engagement. And over the years, our team has included staff analysts, student researchers, faculty advisors and consultants with academic training in fields such as psychology, economics, public health, computer science, as well as clinical experience as teachers, doctors, social workers, and professional experience as grant makers, nonprofit leaders, program evaluators, filmmakers, and many more.
As a researcher who came to Penn as the first Penn Integrates Knowledge professor, and has always held appointments at the Annenberg School for Communication here at the School of Social Policy and Practice, in the School of Arts and Sciences here at Penn. CHIP's insistence on a multidisciplinary approach to its work has always impressed and inspired me. Now, as Dean of SP2, I see that as one of the most exciting aspects of CHIP's work, and it's one that I'm eager to help duplicate and support unflinchingly. None of the questions we want to ask and answer can be really addressed from any disciplinary silo. CHIP knows that and translate that into multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary kinds of efforts and initiatives. I also believe that CHIP's multidisciplinary experience is one of the major reasons why the team is so good at collaborating across the university and far beyond. Collaboration is the future of us all. The problems are too big to be too siloed. CHIP knows that, I think institutionalizes it well.
So what do we do now that you know who we are? For us, building a multidisciplinary team was necessary to do what we do, which is to build knowledge that can truly allow individuals and the sector to get to social impact faster and with more confidence. As John said, it's because no matter what question we are asking, whether it's the best ways to combat the opioid epidemic in the US, or to save lives from known treatable, preventable diseases, or to identify a great nonprofit or know how to measure and manage impact, good answers to those questions aren't housed in just one discipline or one perspective.
And we know at the School of Social Policy and Practice that the strongest solutions to the most pressing problem consider those problems holistically.
And that's why our team will not only review the relevant academic research for whatever question we're trying to answer, but we'll also seek out the perspectives of the nonprofits who have worked long on that topic. We'll ask donors and grant makers to share what they've learned. We'll review related policy analyses, case studies, public data, information you won't find in an academic journal, but that help our team understand the nature of the problem and potential solutions as they exist today in the real world.
Building knowledge on social innovation, social impact, and social justice is the mission of the School of Social Policy and Practice. It's what all of our faculty have in common, despite research interests as diverse as homelessness, mental health, human flourishing, violence, racism, big data, nonprofit leadership, and global philanthropy. While CHIP's team shares our research faculty's commitment to rigorous analysis, it is distinct in that, unlike most academic research centers, it pays at least as much attention to making that knowledge useful as it builds that knowledge into a base that other practitioners can redeploy.
So while we believe building knowledge is essential and a valuable endeavor in its own right, no one involved in CHIP would be satisfied if we didn't have an equally strong commitment to ensure that the knowledge is made useful to donors and philanthropic leaders around the world seeking greater social impact. So over the years, we've devoted more time and energy to serving as a resource for the mainstream media on issues of social impact and philanthropy. These are just some of the many mainstream media outlets where you might have learned of our work. We also serve as a source of knowledge and perspective for those focused on philanthropy, so the philanthropic industry and nonprofit media, like Chronicle of Philanthropy, Foundation Review, Stanford Social Innovation Review. We also bring our work directly to some of the grant makers who are focused on addressing the needs that we look at. Affinity groups like Grant Makers in Health, New Profit, Global Philanthropy Forum, just to name a few. And one of the ways that we are increasingly getting our knowledge into the hands of people who can use it is through arrangements with intermediaries like Fidelity Charitable, multifamily offices like the Threshold Group, and private wealth management firms like US Trust, just to give you an example of how they help us achieve our goal and our mission. Just this past year, Fidelity Charitable, the largest independent donor-advised fund, and second only to the Gates Foundation in the amount of philanthropic gifts that it allocates each year, emailed over 100,000 account holders of their donor-advised fund accounts on Giving Tuesday, letting them know of our annual giving guide, which could serve as a resource to those account holders as they try to understand how they can make a bigger difference this year. In that email, they included a link on their website, and if anybody clicked on that link, you would find that all the content on the Fidelity Charitable webpage was actually mirroring the guidance that our team developed in our annual guide.
And that's the kind of partnership that not only strengthens the field, but does it efficiently. Social workers will tell you that to create positive change, you have to meet the client where she is. And rather than just hoping that folks will find us or trying to drive everyone to our own website, we work with these leading intermediaries to provide content that allows donors ready access to knowledge to support more effective giving. And similarly, while we teach and advise students from multiple schools here at Penn, our team has also provided public workshops and small group learning opportunities to students, practitioners, and donors far beyond campus in places like Colombia and Singapore.
I want to share just one example of how this combination of building knowledge and a commitment to translating that knowledge for real-world action can lead to impact. Several years ago, during the time of the economic recession here in the US, we were seeing how rates of food insecurity, meaning the inability of a family or a person to meet their basic food needs and know where their next meal was coming from, those rates were rising. So we asked the question, how could donors help? As we sought the answers, we tapped knowledge from researchers in the academic space, both at Penn and elsewhere. We also looked at information that was available publicly from places like USDA and the EPA. And we looked at what practitioners had learned, organizations like the United Way and members of the National Network of Food Banks like Feeding America West Michigan. What we found is that there's a surplus of food in this nation, and that $10 that could have been used to buy cans for a canned food drive would actually go farther in providing emergency food if they were donated to one of these regional food banks or Feeding America to draw down the surplus of food more cost effectively. So that was an exciting answer for our team, and then we set about making sure that answer was available for others to use. We published our High Impact Philanthropy in the Downturn donor guide that was available for free on our website. Several community foundations also put it on their website, and we made it available, as long as it was attributed to our work, to anybody who wanted to put it on their website. But we went further. We wrote op-eds, one of which got picked up in the LA Times and subsequently picked up in over 5 metropolitan dailies. We granted interviews with public radio stations like NPR. It was picked up by others and became one of the top opinion pieces that year in Slate. It was an example in a TEDx Philadelphia talk. And all of this led to impact where more people were aware of a more cost-effective way to help, and we got reports back from organizations like Philabundance, the regional food bank here, where the op-ed appeared Thanksgiving Day, that year they saw an increase in unrestricted financial donations, all of which means more people in need of food have it.
So hopefully one of the things you're taking away from Kat and John's remarks so far is the deep commitment to the center's mission that all of us share. And although we're proud of what we've accomplished and learned to date, we're even more excited about the ways that we see that we can do this work even better in the future. And as we enter CHIP's second decade, our team continues to innovate in the way that it builds knowledge and makes that knowledge useful.
For example, this year, CHIP and the School of Social Policy and Practice welcomed its first postdoctoral fellow dedicated exclusively to CHIP's work. In honor of CHIP's 10-year anniversary, she will be working with the other members of CHIP's team to update CHIP's very first piece of donor guidance, Pathways to Student Success. Another area where CHIP has long provided donor guidance is in global public health. This year, CHIP will provide guidance on how donors can support one of the most effective and efficient ways of improving health for vulnerable communities around the world, community-based health delivery. Really important intervention. Also, later this spring, CHIP will formally announce the members of its inaugural Faculty Fellows Program. I'm thrilled to be a part of the inaugural cohort. And although CHIP, I think, has always benefited from the research and advice of faculty researchers at SP2, at Penn, and far beyond, this Faculty Fellows Program provides a new vehicle to link CHIP's work with the expertise and research of some of our most preeminent research faculty.
We're also excited to build new knowledge in areas where we see donors and the field overall still struggle. Our recent collaboration with Wharton Social Impact Initiative on public equity and women examines which social impact indicators have the greatest evidence of being linked to the improvements in the lives of women, and how that knowledge can inform decisions by both philanthropic donors and impact investors. We've also seen that while much recent attention has focused on identifying the best evidence-based ways to provide specific services to specific beneficiary populations, donors in the philanthropic sector overall still struggle with analyzing the social impact of multi-program nonprofits, arts, cultural heritage, and other institutions that have long served as community anchors, R&D and innovation efforts, philanthropy to invest in policy and advocacy. And as we look forward and look ahead, these are the kinds of questions. How do you understand how to have impact in these areas that our team is eager to work on to increase the knowledge that decision makers can use? In addition to building new knowledge, we're also experimenting with formats and approaches that can help our knowledge be more immediately accessible and useful. That includes developing more lifelong learning opportunities, such as our week-long executive education program, to teach donors and those who advise them how they can move more quickly and confidently on the path to greater social impact. We continue to engage journalists, including those affiliated with Solutions Journalism Network, to work with our research analysts to translate what we find so that it's useful to a smart but lay audience. We're experimenting with prize formats like the inaugural Franklin SP2 Social Innovation Prize as a new way to engage our students in identifying and developing social impact opportunities. And we continue to find ways to produce 60-second lectures, podcasts, and improve the reach and usefulness of our flagship guidance, our annual High Impact Giving Guide.
So I hope at this point you're realizing that we do a lot at CHIP, and yet our core team has always been very lean. In any given year, we only have about 7 to 10 core team members, supplemented by student research assistants, expert advisors, and project consultants. But as a result, our success and the quality of our work relies heavily on the talent, knowledge, and information that we can leverage from partners. And as the arrangement with Fidelity Charitable demonstrates, distribution partners are also critical, and that they're in the best position to get our knowledge quickly and efficiently out to those who can use it. They also provide important intelligence back to our team on what impact-related questions donors need answered and how to best deliver that information to them.
And of course, Kat, Ann, and the rest of the CHIP team could not do the good and necessary work they do without financial resources. CHIP is not an endowed center. Instead, it continues to rely on gifts from individuals, select project funding from foundations like the Annie E. Casey Foundation, William Penn, and Tara Health, and also earn revenue, primarily from its education programs. Additional financial support will expand its work, that work's impact, and ultimately the impact of the field overall.
So we hope that we've inspired you a little bit and encouraged you to engage with the center and stay up to date on our research and our activities. And there's a number of ways that you can do that. As we mentioned, this webinar is the first in a series, so be sure to sign up to participate in future discussions and participate in the survey that we'll be sending to make sure that as we continue to have these webinars, they're useful for you, our audience. Second, please use our guidance. As Kat mentioned, all of CHIP's research is publicly available and can be found on our website, www.impact.upenn.edu. And you can also email our team and ask to be updated as new work is released. And most exciting, the CHIP team will be traveling around the country this year in honor of our 10th anniversary, hosting events in some major cities. We look forward to meeting you, and again, email us for more information on those events. And really the best way to learn about all of our upcoming initiatives is to sign up for our listserv, which can be done on the website or by emailing our team at impact@upenn.edu. And of course, you can always follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. So at this point, we'd love to open it up to you, the audience, for questions. And so to ask Kat or John a question, just click the button on your screen and type it in. And we actually already have a few, so let's get started. Kat, several participants are wondering if CHIP's research is only relevant for those who give away millions of dollars every year.
It shouldn't be. And one of the things that we often say is that if we only cared about the amount of money, then we'd really be a center on high input philanthropy. You'll see if you look at our guidance, we have identified opportunities where $10 can make a meaningful difference in somebody's life. So it's not about the amount of money you spend or you give in giving. It's really about how well you give.
Great. John, here's a question for you. So many of today's university-based social impact efforts seem to come out of the business schools. So why is CHIP housed at SP2 and not at Wharton Penn School of Business?
So one of the ways we talk about SP2's mission and vision is to say we're one of Penn's most important social justice units. We are teaching students who simply want to make the world a better place. There's a version, I think, of what CHIP's fundamental job is, what its ethos and core mission is, that dovetails well with that. But I'll also say it's not an either or, right? So it's housed at the School of Social Policy and Practice, and I think it's a wonderful home for CHIP, but we leverage the entire university, including Wharton, in ways that allow us to take advantage of what is one of the most vibrant intellectual spaces in the world. And so we feel like this is a good perch from which to do CHIP's mission, because it really does fall centrally in the sweet spot of what we think everyone who convenes at SP2 is in the business of trying to do.
Excellent. Kat, here's a question that we get a lot. Is there really such a thing as low impact philanthropy?
Sadly, yes. Another, not just low impact, but negative impact. So good intentions and a lot of money don't necessarily mean a good result. One of the classic examples of that is Scared Straight, which is a program that's quite well known. Over the years has gotten a lot of money. Its intent was to reduce juvenile delinquency, but in many cases it did the opposite. It increased the likelihood that a kid was going to wind up doing something that would land them in jail. So that's an example of not just low, but negative impact. and the kinds of things that we're trying to help steer donors in the field away from.
Great, great. So we got an interesting question from one of our participants today, and they're wondering, Kat, what do you see as CHIP's biggest challenge for the future, and how will you address it?
Yeah. The work is big. And I have to say, in some ways, we're in a better position than we were 10 years ago, because it was really lonely 10 years ago. There weren't many of us out there who were trying to push the field and advance it towards social impact. If anything, I got a lot of cynicism about the center's mission. Donors don't care about impact. Why, like, yeah, you can spend a lot of time developing this knowledge and delivering it, but I mean, it was a pretty cynical view of philanthropy and the social sector space. So I think in the early days, the challenge was plugging away in the face of that cynicism. I think what's happened now is there are more and more partners for us to leverage. So it is less challenging in that respect. There are more people on our team. I think the challenge now is to really leverage what the sector has so that we can push farther and faster. And that takes time, that takes skill, that takes money, that takes effort. And it really takes the ability for folks to find the ways to collaborate effectively. And as somebody who once worked in post-merger integration, I know how difficult it can be to figure those out. But I'm really encouraged by the number of players who are trying to move in the same direction that we are.
Excellent. Excellent. There's hope. Here's actually a really great question that I think each of you can look at from your own individual perspectives. And that is, does CHIP see a role in informing the effectiveness or impact of advocacy efforts in which nonprofits or donors may engage, and particularly given the current social climate? And John, I'll let you start with this one because I know the school's got quite a few efforts going on in this front.
So, I mean, the short answer is, I think absolutely. I think CHIP's mission is a large one. And if there's a need, one of the things I think Kat and the entire team is very good about doing is trying to figure out how to effectively use the resources and expertise they have to address it. So as far as the school is concerned, that is one of the most important spaces we want to think about in terms of our own mission, doing justice to and getting, I mean, in the contemporary moment, part of what we're trying to figure out is, what does advocacy even mean? And to what extent do we have to reimagine some of the conventional rules and methods that we took for granted as being effective? And that's something that's a moving target. I think CHIP is really well positioned to help us think about how differently the landscape is configured in the contemporary moment.
I mean, our primary lens is social impact. And so I mentioned some of the new knowledge we're interested in building, and that's knowledge around how can folks who have resources to achieve a philanthropic goal understand how to make gifts in support of smart policy and advocacy campaigns. I remember back in 2010, the first time we were doing a workshop for individual donors, and I asked them, how many of you, in addition to making philanthropic grants, are also involved in some kind of policy or advocacy effort? And almost every hand was raised. And so it's, you know, for us, social impact is the primary lens, and it's always good for us to remember, and there are 3 sectors that contribute to social impact. There's the nonprofit philanthropic sector, there's the government public sector, and there's the business commercial sector. And with partners, we already are working with folks where we can bring the expertise and knowledge around the social impact, and they can help adapt that when it's being applied to a sector outside the nonprofit philanthropic sector.
Great. So kind of staying in that theme of different sectors, different issues, different disciplines. Kat, can you give kind of an overview of what areas has CHIP done research in, and what's available? And how does the CHIP team decide what issues they'll look at in a given year?
So this is when I realized I should have had the cheat sheet of all of the areas where CHIP has done work.
We have a website.
I will give some examples for folks, but it will not, I apologize, it will not be comprehensive. We have worked on food, sustainable agriculture, addiction, child survival rates, maternal health. Am I missing any recent ones? I'm looking at my colleagues here. A wide range. Have we worked on every that we'd like to? No. And so that gets to Anne's question about how do we decide? We look at 3 things. One is there a situation where the good answers don't already exist, where there's a lot of noise, and that is hindering smart philanthropic decisions, right? Is the need there in this particular area, and is there potential, if there is good information, if there is better guidance that people can trust, is there a potential for great social change? A recent example of that is we had been tracking the opioid epidemic here in the United States, so we could see how large the problem was. We could also see, because of the stigma that's associated with mental health and addiction, that there was a lot of misinformation there. So that seemed ripe for an area for us to look into. But then the other thing we need to look at, in addition to potential for social impact, is, are we in a position to come up with good answers relatively quickly? We have resident expertise on our team. We have networks we can tap. Some of them are stronger than others. I'll use the addiction example. We have public health specialists and in our network, one of the leading experts in addiction. That made us confident that yes, there was a potential for social impact, and yes, our team could tackle this. Now, the third is just a resource constraint like everybody else. We actually knew those two things long before we got the funding. So it was one of those projects that was ready, but we couldn't start until the funding was available. And when that funding was available, we just ran with it. So those are the three things: potential for major social impact, confidence that our team can find answers quickly and well, relatively quickly and well, and third, available funding to support the effort.
Great. So we have another question here that is something that I think the center hears a lot from from donors in general. And this person is concerned that if when they make a gift, that they don't want their donation going to overhead to support the organization. So can you talk a little bit about that perspective and how CHIP views the concept of overhead for nonprofits?
Mm-hmm. If I had that person in the room, I would ask, why are you worried that spending money on overhead is a bad thing? Because really what we focus on is not the amount of money spent on overhead versus other expenses. I mean, really, you're just looking at spending categories. What we care about is, given the resources an organization has available to it, what's the change it's creating? Right? So it's not, let's look at categories of spending, which is more a kind of accounting exercise. We really want to know what is accomplished with what they spend. And that's the main problem that overhead ratios present if what you're really trying to get at is bang for buck, right? It's only telling you what somebody's spending. It's not telling you whether or not that spending is leading to change. And as a center that's focused on impact, overhead ratios don't really give you much to go on in understanding whether or not that organization is using its resources well to create impact. It's simply telling you where it's choosing to spend. And I understand the assumption there. The assumption is that if you spend on programs, you'll do more good. But as we saw in the Scared Straight example, you can spend a lot on programs and actually not do any good and maybe even do harm. So just focusing on spending on programs does not really give you confidence that the money is well spent.
So we have time for one more question, and we've got a good one here, which is, given this is CHIP's anniversary year, where would you like to see the center in 5 or maybe even another 10 years? Mm-hmm. And we'll let you both take a crack at that one.
You know, I said earlier when somebody asked the question about the challenge that I'm encouraged by there are more people on our team, meaning people who are working to help individuals and the sector get to impact faster. 5 years from now, I hope we're in a really crowded space. And I hope that we have more partners so that we're building the infrastructure that will actually make it hard to not have impact. Really, if you want to tell me like what success would mean, it is so much easier to have impact than it is to make a bad funding decision. And right now, that's not the state of the world.
I would say ditto to that. I would love to see copycats trying to follow CHIP's model. They won't have CHIP's team, but I think they would appreciate the value of what CHIP's doing. So I'd love to see that in other academic institutions around the country. And, you know, I'd love to imagine we're in a place where, you know, CHIP doesn't have to worry an iota about its own funding, because the work it's doing is valued enough that it is confident it has what it needs to always get the work done so it can get it out there for the folks who need it.
Great. Well, unfortunately, that's all that we have time for today. I hope that everyone that has participated has enjoyed this as much as we have. And thank you to everyone who sent in those terrific questions. If we didn't get to your question in the presentation, someone from our team will follow up with you by email. But we hope that this isn't the end of our conversation with you and rather just the beginning. So again, our contact information is there for you on the screen. We encourage you to email us, visit our website, sign up for our listserv, follow us on social media, and work with us to continue creating impact in the world. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and we look forward to our next presentation.